All right, today we're jumping into one of the most important scenes in all of Romeo and Juliet. We're talking Act 1, Scene 3. Now, this is the moment that really sets the stage for everything that's about to happen. It's the scene where Juliet's entire future is being mapped out for her, right before, a certain someone crashes a party and blows that map to pieces. This is the calm before the storm, and it is absolutely essential to understanding the tragedy to come. So, to really get this story, you have to ask a pretty basic question. Who is Juliet before Romeo shows up? I think we tend to see her only as one half of a pair. But this scene gives us the answer. It shows us who she is at her core, her personality, her relationships, and her place in the world. It gives us a baseline, and that's what makes her transformation later on so dramatic.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We are in a room in the Capulets' house, and what's important here is that there are no men around, no big public speeches. This is a private, intimate space where three women are about to have a conversation that is literally going to decide a young girl's future.
First up, we've got Lady Capulet. She's the mom, the lady of the house, and she is 100% the one driving this conversation. She's got one goal and one goal only: to deliver a marriage proposal. You can think of her as representing formal authority, what society expects, the official side of being a mother.
And boom, her very first line tells you pretty much everything you need to know about her. Call her forth to me. It's not a question, it's a command. And notice she says it to the nurse, not even to Juliet directly. It just shows you that there's a bit of a distance between this mother and daughter right from the get-go.
And then we have the other maternal figure in Juliet's life, and she couldn't be more different: the nurse. She is so much more than a servant. She was Juliet's wet nurse, which means she's basically been the main mother figure in her life since she was a baby. She's loving, she's a little bit bawdy, and she is the complete opposite of the formal Lady Capulet.
And you can just hear the difference in how she talks. Lamb, Ladybird, these are the kinds of nicknames that come from real deep affection. She doesn't just use Juliet's name. She uses these little pet names that show an intimacy that was completely missing from Lady Capulet's command a second ago.
And finally, the girl herself walks in, Juliet. Now, we have to remember something crucial here. She is only 13 years old. The nurse makes a huge deal about how she's not yet 14, so she's a child, really, standing right on the edge of adulthood, and she's about to get pushed into a very adult decision.
And take a listen to her very first words in the scene. Madam. She calls her own mother, Madam, and then, what is your will? Not what's up or what do you need, but what is your command? This tells us everything about who Juliet is at this moment. She is quiet, she is respectful, and she is completely, totally obedient.
So after a kind of awkward moment where Lady Capulet tells the nurse to leave and then immediately calls her back because she clearly can't do this alone, she finally gets to the point. She brings up the whole reason for this little meeting: marriage.
And there it is, the big question that the entire scene revolves around. How stands your disposition to be married? Lady Capulet phrases it very politely, like she's just asking for Juliet's opinion, but as we're about to see, there is a ton of pressure packed into that seemingly simple question.
Juliet's response is honestly a little work of art. It's so polite, but it's also a total deflection. First, she says it's an honor, so she's showing respect. She gets that marriage is a big deal. But then she adds that I dream not of. She's not saying no way. She's just saying I haven't even thought about it. It's the perfect, respectful answer from a girl who's clearly been put on the spot. So now that the question's out there, the rest of the scene really just becomes this fascinating debate. We get three totally different viewpoints on what marriage is all about, and it's all focused on one specific guy they have in mind for Juliet. But before we even find out who the guy is, the nurse launches into this long, rambling, but incredibly sweet speech. She's remembering all these little details from Juliet's childhood, tying them to big events like an earthquake that happened 11 years ago. Now, this isn't just filler. It's Shakespeare showing us how deep the nurse's love is. It's grounded in real, shared memories. So, who's the suitor? It's the valiant Paris, who's related to the prince. Basically, he's a fantastic catch. And Lady Capulet's main argument is pretty much peer pressure. She says that girls even younger than Juliet are already mothers in Verona. And hey, she herself was a mom at Juliet's age. The whole argument is about duty, status, and what everyone else is doing. Now, to sell Paris to Juliet, Lady Capulet gets really poetic. She doesn't just list his good qualities. She uses this incredibly elaborate metaphor, comparing him to a precious book of love that's just missing one little thing to be perfect.
Okay, let's break this down because it's pretty clever. She tells Juliet to look at his face like it's a book. She says he's this beautiful, amazing story that just lacks a cover. And if Juliet marries him, she'll be that beautiful cover. She'll complete him, and she'll get to share in all of his glory. It's a beautiful way of putting it, but it's all about appearances, right? And this really sums up the two competing arguments perfectly. For Lady Capulet, Paris is a flower, a precious book, and marriage is all about getting status and wealth. For the nurse, well, she's a lot more direct. She calls him a man of wax, like a perfect statue, and gets right to the point, saying marriage is about the physical stuff, about how women grow by men. One view is all social and pretty. The other is, well, it's very down to earth. So Juliet has heard both sides. She's got her mom's formal pitch about duty and looking good in society, and she's got the very enthusiastic physical endorsement from the nurse, the woman who actually raised her. The pressure is on, and the focus swings right back to her. It is time to make a choice.
So think about it. After this eloquent speech from her mother and the enthusiastic support from her nurse, what does a 13-year-old girl who has only ever known how to be obedient, what does she do?
Her answer is just, it's genius. Let's really unpack this. I'll look to like, okay, simple enough. I'll check him out and try to like him. If liking move, if seeing him actually makes me like him. But then, here's the brilliant part. But no more deep will I endart mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly. She's basically saying, I will only let myself like him as much as you, my mother, want me to. It's incredibly smart. She's being obedient, but she's not promising a thing.
So why did we just spend all this time on one single scene? Because literally everything that happens here lays the foundation for the tragedy that's about to unfold. It gives us the starting point for Juliet's character and the world she lives in.
So, as we keep going with the story, here's what this scene has armed us with. We now know that Juliet starts out obedient and incredibly intelligent. We see that marriage in her world is basically a business deal, not about love. We know for sure that the nurse is her #1 confidant, and that loyalty is going to have huge consequences. Most importantly, we have a crystal clear picture of who Juliet is before Romeo, which is what will make her passionate rebellion so utterly shocking.
And that leaves us with one last big question. This scene shows us a careful, dutiful daughter who is expertly navigating her mother's expectations. If this is who she is, what kind of force, what kind of passion, what kind of love could possibly be powerful enough to make her defy her family, her society, and everything she's ever known? Well, that question is about to get answered, because a bunch of masked Montagues are on their way to crash the Capulets' party.